What happens when automakers get it completely wrong? Today, we're diving into the Hall of Shame of American automotive history. These aren't just bad cars, they're legendary failures that cost millions, destroyed reputations, and left owners absolutely furious. From dangerous designs to catastrophic engineering failures, these vehicles proved that even the biggest names in Detroit can produce absolute disasters. Buckle up, because you're about to witness the top 10 worst cars in U.S. history. Let's get started. Number 10. 2001 to 2005 Pontiac Aztek. Coming in at number 10, we have the Pontiac Aztek, a car so ugly it's been called one of the worst design disasters in automotive history. When General Motors launched the Aztek in 2001, they marketed it as a versatile crossover for adventurous young buyers. What they delivered was a vehicle that looked like it was designed by 3 different teams who never talked to each other. The Aztek came with a 3.4-liter V6 engine producing 185 horsepower, paired with either front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. Performance was adequate, but nothing special, with the vehicle weighing around 3,800 pounds. But the real problem was the styling. The front end featured awkward cladding and mismatched angles that made it look unfinished. The two-tone plastic body panels aged poorly and often faded to different colors. Multiple automotive journalists voted it the ugliest car ever made. Number 9. 2007 to 2010 Chrysler Sebring. At number 9, we have the Chrysler Sebring, a mid-size sedan that managed to disappoint in every possible way. Chrysler positioned the Sebring as an affordable family sedan and a popular rental car choice. But affordability came at the cost of quality, refinement, and basic competence. The Sebring offered 3 engine options: a 2.4-liter 4-cylinder with 173 horsepower, a 2.7-liter V6 with 189 horsepower, and a 3.5-liter V6 with 235 horsepower. Even with the largest engine, the car felt sluggish and unrefined. The interior was absolutely terrible. Cheap, hard plastics covered every surface. The dashboard looked like it cost $5 to manufacture. Panel gaps were inconsistent and everything rattled. The seats provided minimal comfort, and the overall build quality felt like a car from the 1990s, not 2007. Handling was vague and disconnected. The ride quality was somehow both too soft and too harsh. Fuel economy was mediocre, averaging around 21 mpg combined. Reliability issues plagued owners, with transmission problems and electrical failures being common complaints. Number 8. 2001 to 2003 Ford Explorer Sport Track. Number 8 brings us the Ford Explorer Sport Track, a vehicle that tried to be both an SUV and a pickup truck, but failed at being either. Ford took the Explorer SUV, cut off the rear, added a small pickup bed, and called it innovative. What they created was a compromise that satisfied nobody and had serious problems. The Sport Track came with a 4.0-liter V6 engine producing 210 horsepower. For a vehicle weighing over 4,400 pounds, this was barely adequate. Acceleration was slow, and towing capacity maxed out at just 5,300 pounds, far less than a real pickup truck. The 4-foot pickup bed was too small to be truly useful. You couldn't fit a standard sheet of plywood flat in the bed. The rear seats in the crew cab were cramped and uncomfortable, so it wasn't a good SUV and it wasn't a good truck. But the real problem was the Firestone tire controversy. Early sport tracks, like other Explorers, came with Firestone Wilderness tires that had a tendency to catastrophically fail, leading to rollovers and deaths. This created a massive scandal and recall affecting millions of vehicles. The Sport Track also suffered from typical Ford reliability issues of that era: transmission problems, electrical failures, and premature rust. Fuel economy was terrible at around 15 mpg combined. Number 7. 2003 to 2011 Saturn Ion. At number 7, we have the Saturn Ion, a compact car that managed to take everything good about the original Saturn brand and throw it away. Saturn built its reputation on affordable, reliable, no-haggle cars with plastic body panels that resisted dents. The Ion kept the plastic panels but abandoned everything else that made Saturn special. The base Ion came with a 2.2-liter four-cylinder producing 140 horsepower, while the sportier Redline version got a 2.0-liter supercharged engine with 205 horsepower. Both were paired with either a manual transmission or a problematic CVT automatic. The interior was absolutely bizarre. Saturn mounted the gauge cluster in the center of the dashboard instead of behind the steering wheel. This was supposed to be innovative, but just proved distracting and awkward. The cheap plastic interior creaked and rattled constantly. Build quality was atrocious. The doors felt flimsy, electrical problems were rampant, and the ignition switch had a deadly defect. The ignition could randomly shut off while driving, disabling power steering, power brakes, and airbags. This defect led to at least 13 deaths and eventually a massive recall. Number 6, 1996 to 1999 Ford Taurus. Coming in at number 6 is the third-generation Ford Taurus, a redesign so bad it killed America's best-selling car. The original Taurus revolutionized the American auto industry in 1986 with its aerodynamic design and modern features. It became the best-selling car in America. Then Ford decided to fix what wasn't broken. The 1996 redesign featured radical oval-shaped everything. Oval headlights, oval windows, oval dashboard vents, oval door handles. Ford called it bold and futuristic. Customers called it weird and ugly. The Taurus came with either a 3.0-liter V6 producing 145 horsepower or a 3.4-liter V8 in the high-performance SHO model with 235 horsepower. But the V8 was problematic, with camshaft failures being common and expensive to repair. The interior was dominated by that bizarre oval theme. The oval-shaped center console was awkward to use. Visibility was poor due to thick pillars and oddly shaped windows. Ergonomics were terrible, with controls placed in illogical locations. Number 5, 1999 to 2005 Dodge Durango. At number 5, we have the first-generation Dodge Durango, an SUV that combined terrible reliability with dangerous safety issues. The Durango was Dodge's entry into the popular mid-size SUV market. Built on a truck platform, it offered 3 rows of seating and available V8 power. But beneath the tough exterior lurked serious problems. Engine options included a 3.9-liter V6 with 175 horsepower, a 4.7-liter V8 with 235 horsepower, and a 5.9-liter V8 with 250 horsepower. The V8s provided decent power, but fuel economy was atrocious at around 12 to 14 mpg combined. The Durango suffered from chronic reliability problems. The dashboard would crack and warp within just a few years. The automatic transmission was notoriously problematic, often failing before 100,000 miles, with repair costs exceeding $2,000. Ball joints and tie rod ends wore out prematurely, creating dangerous handling problems. The air conditioning systems frequently failed. Electrical gremlins plagued the vehicle throughout its life. Rust appeared quickly on the frame and body panels. Number 4, 2004 to 2006 Chevrolet Malibu. Number 4 takes us to the Chevrolet Malibu, a mid-size sedan that was so mediocre and poorly executed it became forgettable in the worst way possible. General Motors designed this Malibu to compete in the crucial mid-size sedan segment against the Honda Accord and Toyota Camry. They failed spectacularly. The Malibu offered three engine choices: a 2.2-liter four-cylinder with 145 horsepower, a 3.5-liter V6 with 200 horsepower, and a 3.9-liter V6 with 240 horsepower in the Max model. Even with the V6, the car felt sluggish and unrefined. The interior was a sea of hard, cheap plastic that looked and felt like it belonged in a car costing half the price. The seats provided minimal support and comfort. The dashboard design was boring, and the center controls were poorly laid out. Build quality was substandard, even by GM's low standards of that era. Rattles and squeaks developed quickly. The automatic transmission shifted harshly and hesitated. Electrical problems were common, with power windows and door locks frequently malfunctioning. At number 3, we have a controversial choice, the 10th generation Ford F-150. Yes, America's best-selling vehicle makes this list because this particular generation had catastrophic problems. The F-150 is an American icon and typically a solid truck. But this generation suffered from some of the worst reliability issues ever seen on a Ford truck, particularly with certain engine and transmission combinations. Engine options included a 4.2-liter V6 with 205 horsepower, a 4.6-liter V8 with 220 horsepower, and a 5.4-liter V8 with 260 horsepower in the Max model. The 5.4-liter Triton V8 became infamous for spark plug problems. The 5.4-liter engine had a design flaw where spark plugs would seize in the cylinder heads. When mechanics tried to remove them, the plugs would break off, requiring expensive repairs involving special extraction tools or even cylinder head replacement. This problem affected hundreds of trucks. At number 2, we have the first-generation Jeep Compass, a vehicle that betrayed everything the Jeep brand stood for. Jeep built its reputation on rugged, capable off-road vehicles. The Compass was a front-wheel drive crossover with pretend Jeep styling and virtually no off-road capability. It was a Jeep in name only. The Compass came with a 2.0-liter four-cylinder producing just 158 horsepower or a 2.4-liter with 172 horsepower. For a vehicle weighing over 3,400 pounds, this meant painfully slow acceleration. 0 to 60 took over 10 seconds. The interior was absolutely horrible. Cheap, hard plastics everywhere. The dashboard looked like a toy. The seats were uncomfortable and provided no support. The materials felt like they would disintegrate if you looked at them too hard. Build quality was atrocious. Panels didn't line up properly. Everything rattled and squeaked. The CVT transmission was unreliable and made horrible whining noises. Electrical problems were common, with dashboard warning lights illuminating for mysterious reasons. And finally, at number 1, we have the first-generation Hyundai Santa Fe, an SUV that combined poor quality, terrible reliability, and dangerous safety issues into one disastrous package. Hyundai was trying to establish itself in the American market with the Santa Fe, their first SUV. They priced it aggressively and offered a 10-year warranty. They needed that warranty because these vehicles fell apart constantly. The Santa Fe came with either a 2.4-liter four-cylinder producing 149 horsepower or a 2.7-liter V6 with 181 horsepower. Neither engine was particularly refined, with both suffering from rough running and excessive noise. The interior was absolutely terrible. Every surface was covered in the cheapest, hardest plastic imaginable. The dashboard cracked and warped in sunlight. The seats were uncomfortable and poorly designed. The cloth upholstery stained easily and wore through quickly. Build quality was shockingly bad. Doors didn't align properly. Hood and trunk gaps were inconsistent. Paint was thin and chipped easily. Rust appeared quickly on body panels and the frame.